This is Bricks of Boston: How Humanity Loses Its Soul One Building at a Time. A long time ago here in Boston, Massachusetts, the people that lived here took great pride in their surroundings and the mark that they would leave behind. The people of the past left grand structures of immense beauty for the enrichment of their lives and that of posterity. Today, the mark of our generations pale in comparison to those of the past. Today, we travel great distances not to see the soulless piles of steel, concrete, and glass, but to see the structures of old that communicate to the soul. These structures of a bygone era are history, and the history that communicated to us is this: we were here, and we're proud to be here. Behold our beauty. Architecture is art. It is the art that we surround ourselves with and live in. We breathe life into architecture and give it a soul, and in turn, architecture either inspires our spirits or makes us long for something greater. Art may inspire the artist's mind, uplift our creative spirit, and enrich the soul. Or it may depress our imagination, oppress the spirit, and demoralize the soul. Therefore, art is incredibly powerful and important. If we do not create art with love and passion, the artist becomes the consumer, the spirited becomes the spiritless, and the soulful becomes the soulless. So, as you've already been seeing, let's discuss these old bricks of Boston. Personally, getting to see Boston is an experience. This is a city that is very much alive, and so are some of its buildings. Boston is a historic city, founded all the way back in the year 1630, and after all that time, the city is still bright with life. After such time, the immense historical significance of many of these buildings already speaks volumes about their longevity and value. But more touching and awe-inspiring is the soul and spirit that is communicated by the passion and artistry that these buildings were constructed with. The artistry brings alive a bygone era, and the passion that these structures were built with sings to this day the human greatness and monumentality that brought the vision of these structures into fruition. In stark contrast to the works of art of olden days are the glass behemoths that now overshadow this old city. These new structures now dominate the skyline and surround the great structures of old. Oppressive is what it is. These concrete and glass buildings, devoid of the artistry that built the greater older structures, depraves the city of its potential to be an artistic masterpiece of its own. If the city of Boston were constructed with the same spirit and soul that the people of the past built with, Boston would be comparable to as great a city as Paris. That goes with pretty much every city. The cities that were built around us were built with great cost and expenditure of energy. And a lot of that money and energy went into creating the cheapest structure at the expense of the landscape. Nowadays, with cities largely devoid of beautiful architecture, these cities are eyesores to its beholders. They lack the creative spirit and the passionate soul to honor the resources, the land, and the manpower it takes to create such a structure. Thus, the creative spirit is severed from the city as its inhabitants become separated from the participation in the city's cultural development. The more we treat beauty as a thing of the past, the more we get separated from the present. As our daily life becomes increasingly commercialized and soulless, so do we. The less in touch we are to our culture and the less we contribute to it, the less soul a community has. And the day that humanity ceases to contribute to beauty and enriching the soul is the day humanity ceases to be humanity. We become not a collective of beautiful cultures, but a mess of individual consumers. Boston is a wonderful city and an exemplary example of this phenomenon of architecture. There are many magnificent buildings that make this city what it is. However, next to those grand structures are soulless skyscrapers and concrete buildings. Beyond their commercial purposes, they serve only to obstruct what may be and to suppress the creative spirit that built the wonderful buildings of yesterday. A prime example of this is the Sam Adams Courthouse, perhaps the most beautiful and remarkable building I've seen in my life. Yet it lies hidden and its beauty obstructed by soulless and cheap structures. From this stunning courthouse, one would be able to clearly see the Massachusetts State House and Faneuil Hall, but that is not the case. The infamously ugly City Hall sits in between it and the hall, and an eyesore of a building is now attached to this feat of architecture. This state of things, though seemingly menial, represents a much larger issue, and that is the tragedy of the modern state of the world. Today, the wonders created by our ancestors become more and more novel as we cease to contribute our own monuments. Today, what was once meaningful becomes meaningless as the world itself becomes commercialized. And all this comes at the expense of our home, planet Earth, and our collective soul of humanity. This state of things represents our need to preserve and enrich the spirit that makes this world beautiful. Culture and soul. This is what it's all about. The preservation of the past, our contribution to the present, and the enrichment of posterity. Because when our children behold the mark we leave behind, they will see that the presence of soulful creation towers over the mere presence of size. Those things that enrich the soul, they are the things worth living and dying for. So before you engage your energy in any activity, ask yourself this: will this act and commitment enrich my soul? If not, you will be better off without it. If it does, pursue it with your whole heart and soul. There will be no other better outcome in life than the life spent enriching the soul of others and of the self. And when you give your life to the enrichment of the soul, you give yourself something to live for, something truly worthy of life, something truly worth dying for. Thus, nations must be for the sake of making life worthy of the soul, and nations may only be worth dying for when they are worthy of life and the beauty of the soul. The only righteous action is that action which enriches the soul. Without the charm of human beauty, these behemoths are nothing but spectacle without substance. They are a reminder that when we don't build with soul, these towering structures don't only oppress the skyline, they oppress our inner spirit. The dull nature of these glass and concrete structures are as lousy, mass produced, and cheap placeholders, because that is what they are. But the buildings of old, these are testaments to the beauty that we uphold not just in our soul, but in our surroundings. These structures of old remind us to create art with passion, to live with purpose, and to leave a mark worth remembering, to have lived lives worthy of the soul. Ultimately, this is about culture and our potential. We have the potential to contribute something positive and beautiful to both our physical world and our spiritual world. So, let us leave the greatest mark we can. Let us be great. Thank you.